Hey guys, welcome to the podcast this week.
Hey, Mike. Hey.
How's it going?
Good. Great, buddy.
Good. Our second week in our new studio. And so, guys, you've never been in here
my
before.
first week in here.
My first week.
Yep.
Well, we've spent all the money on the new studio and didn't pay the heating bill because it is freezing in here.
It is cold in here,
Yep.
for sure.
It is. Well, but it's cold
I got long
outside. I
sleeves
feel
on.
like this time of
outside.
year when the temps change and it's there's always that season where it's confusing outside. Like you never know where it's going to be warm or
part
cold.
of Mississippi.
And
that's right.
I feel like it wreaks havoc on our HVAC system at the church because it doesn't know whether to heat or cool.
Yeah,
I had
so
my
we're
air
also in a
conditioner on.
closet.
Yeah.
This place had no chance of being heated.
Yeah, technically this is
One of the
a big
first
closet.
churches that I served in, old school, it had this unit that at some point you had to change it over from heating to cooling, and it was like a big deal. Like you didn't switch it back and forth each week. And I remember there are all these discussions about, is it time? Is it time? Is it time? Because
what
once you
deacons
did it,
meetings are
it was
made
like
for.
you committed to it. Yeah, until the next, I don't know.
We'll
Yeah.
run our air condition all day and then turn the heat on at night.
Yeah.
I mean,
and
it's
now
so
you have that little
confusing.
Nest control where you can do multi. So
Oh, yeah.
it gets to a certain degree and it kicks back to cold
Changes
and then
it
it goes
over.
to hot.
That's right.
What a world we live in.
It's a beautiful thing. First world problems.
Oh, Ecclesiastes right here, buddy.
That's right. It's all smoke.
So our second week of Ecclesiastes, and but before we get into the book and the sermon, we started the service like we often do with baptism and Dr. Jing Chang, which was kind of a unique baptism for us, right? Because she's a Chinese national or
Yeah, she's native Chinese. Her and her husband, Lei, and then they have a daughter named Elsa, and they're just a sweet, sweet family, all Christian. And they came to faith, particularly mom and dad came to faith in China, which, of course, if you know your geopolitical situations, China is not the most Christian-friendly country. And they came to faith because of the church movement that's happening in China. And when they came to the States, I think about 6 or 7 years ago, they started going to the Chinese church here, not too far from Broadmoor. It's right down in Ridgeland. And then since then, I think was helping with ESL here at Broadmoor and a couple other churches and found a home here. And so Dr. Chang, who works at Jackson State, she's a vice president there, but is really involved in our English as a second language program here. I went and visited them a few weeks back, and it was super cool because you have, of course, representations from different nationalities in the room, and they're all bringing their family to learn English a little bit better. And what's cool about that program is most of the people aren't Christian; they just want to learn English. But we use the Scripture to teach them. Like that is the base for how we learn. And so Jing brings a whole group of Chinese people. And if you're looking for a place to serve or looking for a place to get involved, and you're a believer, and you love international cuisine, I would argue ESL is the most delicious ministry we do. Here's why. Because most cultures, it is completely appropriate for you when you show up at a place to bring a gift from you to them. And normally that is a tasty gift that they have created. So ESL often has food, and it is a gift that everybody brings. So the other night when I went, there was a Chinese group, there was a Honduran group, there was a Mexican group, and they all brought gifts from their own land. And it was fantastic and delicious. So
We need like an
plug for
ESL Wednesday night. Like, a Wednesday night meal. All
There you go.
around
I wonder if
that.
Burgers and Blues could pull that off.
Oh yeah.
That's our American culture, bringing it to the
That's
table.
right. We're bringing that.
So, and speaking of food, the Changs own a local restaurant that
Ah,
we
they
all
do.
enjoy. So
Drunken Chicken is so good.
Yeah,
It's right by Walmart in
right
Madison.
there. That's good. That's right.
It is great. In fact, maybe it's a lunch spot today.
That's
We'll
right.
see.
This episode is
idea.
brought to you by Drunken Chicken of Madison.
Anyway,
This is a good time.
yeah, no, but always great to start our services with baptism, and it's always cool to hear a little bit about the story behind. So I appreciated what Beth shared, before the actual baptism took place.
Thanks for the ESL plug.
Yeah.
If there are
It
those
is a
out there who are interested
super
in
great
serving,
ministry.
there's
Right.
opportunities, and they can contact me for that if they want to. I'd
That's
love
you,
to help
Mark
them.
Evans.
That's me. Yep.
M. Evans at Broadmoor.org.
It's a pretty cool ministry that we
really
have.
is.
Yeah.
It's great.
So, all right. So week 2, chapter 2 of Ecclesiastes. Great. It was very encouraging and uplifting. I felt
A
really.
little bit sad in the middle. Like, you got to get to the end to get to the encouraging and uplifting.
Yeah. So anything, everything we do is just meaningless. So that's right. That's right. Anyway, so, maybe we'll start the discussion by just talking about, we all have I think I would say most people have a natural drive to build and to create and like ambition of some sort. And so, maybe let's start here. It is, as we look at Ecclesiastes and what we've been studying, is ambition or that drive, is that the problem, or is it misdirected ambition?
And how do you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and how do you know the difference
that's
between
the tricky part? Yeah. I think we would all say that ambition can be good if used toward godly things and in the right way, and ambition certainly can be awful if it's very selfish. Do nothing out of selfish ambition, right? But I think it's that checking your heart that is so difficult. Like, am I really doing this for the right reason? It's easy to say I'm doing it for the right reasons, but sometimes deep inside, I think this is really more about me, either taking care of me or notice me or look what I've done, look what I've accomplished.
Yeah, we have to answer the question, why are we doing what we're doing, right? And I think that's what makes Jesus' teaching so unique, different than any other rabbi that existed during his time, but also any other religious leader that has ever come through history. Like most people, most leaders or most religions would say it's just about what you do. Yeah. And Jesus would argue, well, no, it is about why you do what you do. Because on both sides of that coin, you can certainly be doing bad things because you have something in you that either wants revenge or wants to be known and seen. But you can also do religious things for the wrong reason. You can do incredibly godly things for the wrong reason, and your soul be just as dark as the person who is out doing the most what we would deem dark things. Right. And so it is I don't think ambition is the issue. It is why you are doing what you are doing. That's going to lead you to that place.
That's right. And you think back in our history of our country, ambition, drive, I mean, that has been a core value from the beginning. That's how we got to be a country. And
the American dream.
That's right. And just that passed down from generation to generation, that is something that's so celebrated. And like you said, it's not a bad thing. But man, we put that ambition and drive up on the pedestal as that's how you define somebody. And we're really good at it in this country. And,
that's right. And that is Solomon's point. And the crazy thing is, we're talking about this in 2026, and this is written 2,500 years ago. Right. So this
not a new thing.
This is not something new to humanity. It's not something new to or specific to the United States in 2026. This is who we are.
That's right.
And we have some options. We have some options to learn from the mistakes of others. But as I was talking to my son earlier this week, a lot of times we can know the wisdom that's given, but there's still something inside of us that says, I want to see for myself. And I can appreciate that because I too have that in me. That sometimes I'll hear somebody say, well, this is my experience. I'm like, but mine might be different.
That's right.
It's not been different for anybody else in history, in recorded history, but it might be different for me. And then you get into, you're like, nope, same for me. I just had to have the scars to prove it.
That's right.
So that's Solomon's aim through this whole letter, like through this whole book, right? So he's the preacher standing in front of the congregation saying, please don't repeat what I've done. And what we know of Israel's history and also our history is they heard that and said, amen, preacher. Then they went out and did the very thing he told them not to.
I always think we're going to be the exception.
Well, and you can see, I mean, throughout chapter 2, there's this I did. And, anytime you see that many I's within that short of a time span, I think that's an indicator that the focus is wrong, right? He was not saying, well, let me do this to see how I can glorify God through it. What if God does this? Or what if God acts in this way? It was just I, me.
Yeah.
And then we're going to see how it turns out. Right.
So I mean, in chapter 2, we saw Solomon go through this incredible list of things that he tried and he experimented with, as you put it. And I mean, some of it it's just extremely materialistic, which we all wrestle with today. And again, as we talk about ambition, I think there is a healthy ambition, but there's also like a materialistic sort of drive that we often have. And always looking for that one more thing that's going to make us feel better or fill that void that we feel in our lives. And so, maybe talk, because we have our resident counselor in the room, maybe talk a little bit about what's psychology behind that drive, or maybe even the spiritual reality behind that drive that we
Fix
feel.
us, Preston. What's wrong with us?
Ooh, fix me. That's a hard enough one. I think it comes from different places. I don't know that there's one thing that we can say that is what creates that drive in everybody. Sometimes where you grew up and how you grew up can change that drive. For instance, there are some people who grew up with very little, and they have a drive to accumulate as a way of protection. Like, I don't ever want to be in a situation where I can't open my refrigerator and see food, or where my kids can't go to the pantry and know that there's enough food for us to eat. And so sometimes early on there are life experiences that can push that. Flip side of that is there are people who grow up with everything and get very used to having everything, and there's maybe a comfort or a reliance on the material possessions. As long as I've got enough in my bank account or a fancy enough car or the whatever, then I'm good. And if that starts to look like it's going south, then it creates panic. So I don't think it's always a one thing, but I do think wherever it comes from, it gets attached to the heart, and then that begins to be the driver.
That's good. So what I heard you say is it's almost a false security that says I'm gonna rest in what I've provided or what I have available, right? And I think that's a lot of us are there. I think there's also a drive or an ambition that's motivated by approval.
Oh yeah,
or validation from others, to be praised or valued or looked at as, now that guy's successful. That guy can do it.
Yeah,
and we have a lot of really successful men and women. Yeah. I did say guy. I meant men
Gender
and
neutral
women.
guys.
Gender
Like, hey guys,
Right,
yes,
right.
Southern.
We have a lot of really successful people,
We do.
and there's nothing wrong with success. But I think the challenge for all of us, even I mean, we would be considered successful in the church world. I mean, we're on a large staff.
Right.
What's driving us? How did we get here? What are we asking for? What are we seeking?
which is
that
interesting because
validation,
for
which is
us,
tough.
sometimes there's a comparison part of that. Look at what they're doing, and if they're doing it, then I should be able to do
That's
it.
right.
For Solomon, I mean, who would he compare to?
Right.
Who's in the
he
same
was above.
league?
That's
as
right. Nobody
Solomon
was
to
in that
compare
league.
to, but
Yeah.
he still had that same drive.
But I think he did, like if you look and see his words, particularly chapter 1 and into chapter 2, he is comparison, because he'll say a couple of times in chapter 1 and now in chapter 2, I am the richest king that's ever lived, and I am the most wise king and successful king that's ever lived. And whether, we talked about this last week, whether you take the traditional view that Solomon actually wrote this, or you take the scholarly view that probably 1,000 years later somebody else writes this, but in the voice of Solomon with all the things that is there. But let's take the traditional view, and it's actually Solomon, and he says, I am smarter, I am more wealthy, I have more success than any king that's come before me. Well, brothers, there's only two kings that sat before him. One was Saul. That was the original king, and I'm not quite sure he's comparing to that. So you have Solomon comparing himself to his father.
Dad,
Right.
yeah.
And we have our counselor in the room, and we could probably get into the daddy issues that live there. But in reality, like, there's some times that even if you are the richest guy in the world, there is still something driving us saying, I'm comparing myself to something, and I've got to do it bigger. I've got to do it better. But of course, Solomon's going to have this wisdom to tell us, or at least scars to tell us.
Right.
There's nothing there.
Right.
Like you may surpass him in all measurable senses. But there's nothing. It's smoke. Like I see it. I can see the finish line. If I could just do this, if I get this number in my account, if I have this car, this house, it's smoke is essentially what he would say.
Yeah.
And there's an even bigger, I think, comparison that Solomon is making here. We didn't get into it yesterday because number one, we didn't have the time, and I wasn't quite. I haven't quite settled it in my brain what he was quite doing. I just see it there, right? So this could be smoke even as I talk about it. But if you look at the first part of what Solomon is doing, the hedonistic side, right? So the gathering, he gives this list, and I want to read the list off, right? So he tests laughter and wine, houses, vineyards, gardens, parks. And then he talks about the parks, not only creating the park, but it's being filled with all kinds of animal life. Then he procures for himself male and female servants, and those female and male servants begin to have kids that are also his possession. And then he gets silver and gold from kings who come a couple of different ways. Because they either respected him, or because they feared him to pay him off, or because they tried to fight him and he conquered them. So there was nobody that was able to stand up against him. And then the final part is the thing that kind of piqued this in me. He said, I had singers, both men and women. And, a casual reading just makes you think, oh, cool, he likes, classical music and they're singing classical music. No. He created like God creates. He created for himself, not just an Israelite kingdom, like in Jerusalem where he's like, oh, this is just my people, my kingdom. He is attempting to do the very thing that God does. And so I believe it's not wrong for us to see it this way. And we do this too. We may not have the assets that Solomon has to get to the level that he did. But how many times do we think, I know better than God? And so my timeline's going to be different.
Right.
My way's going to be different. The mode and method in which I approach this life is going to be different, only to find out there's nothing there.
Yeah.
And this is what Solomon, I believe, is teaching us through all the thing that he's tried. I've been happy. I've been sad. I've made a kingdom that praises me, that sings my praises day and night. And there's nothing there. It is not mine to have. It's not ours to have.
Yeah.
That's good.
And there's something to learn from that.
I think so. And we see it all around us in our culture when we think about like stars, whether they're singers or athletes or whatever, people who literally have people singing their praises all day, every day. They are the best. They're famous. And yet, when you hear their stories, a lot of times, if they're really honest behind the scenes, they'll talk about how empty it was.
That's right.
I kept thinking that it was going to provide that satisfaction. I kept thinking if enough people, enough likes, enough whatever. And many of them live very sad lives behind the scenes because they're chasing what he was chasing, and they haven't had his wisdom.
In reading through this, I couldn't help but think of that Jim Carrey line or the quote that he was on camera. I think he was doing like the Tonight Show with Jay Leno or something like that. And he said, I've always had this thing inside of me that I wish that everybody could just get everything they ever wanted just so they can know how empty it is once you get it.
Wow.
And I think coming from a person like him, and
That's
when
him.
he
That's
was
Solomon.
when he was there, right? So that is the truth. And so if it's not about getting and collecting, yet we're designed to make. We're designed so Adam and Eve, like legitimately their job was to get, to collect, to make, to rule. Yeah. But I think the difference was they did it under the authority of God in his name. And Solomon attempted to do it, and we attempt to do it when we're out of balance, when we're in a sinful way, in our name. And we're not good at being God. Like I know we can say that and say, that sounds silly. I would never want to be God. But how many times do we attempt to usurp his authority in our life and put our own there and say, God, I don't like your plan. My plan's a lot better.
Well, I think there's even, as you were talking earlier, and then Preston, this brought this up in my mind too, that, Solomon surrounded himself with people who sang his praises, right? You talked about, celebrities and people who, and they've got people around them that all they do is affirm them and tell them how great they are. And, it's no wonder that when we surround ourselves with people that do nothing but, boost our ego, that we begin to believe that everything is about us and everything revolves around us, and which again then leads us to the motivation that So,
once you taste that, you become addicted to it. And I don't mean to bash ministers twice this morning, but I think that's a huge temptation. You get into ministry, there's validation, there's affirmation. You continue to build your ministry, it expands, and then that's where we find a lot of ministers who have fallen,
right?
Because they've built their kingdom, they've surrounded themselves with people who mostly affirmation, and they don't hear the truth. They end up empty, and it all falls apart. And
I think it just and again, this wasn't really part of our planned conversation, but I think it just reinforces. I mean, we're always talking about the need and the importance of community and having godly people around us who are not only we can not only be there for one another when hard times come and all those things, but they also give us reality checks. They speak truth to us and tell us hard things. Man, I think that's so important that we have those kind of relationships.
Yes, because if in those relationships, if all we do is continue to present the front, and in those small groups or relationships, all they do is continue to affirm us because we don't open up and say, hey, what you see, there's a lot more underneath that's not good.
Right.
We let that be seen by those brothers who speak life into us. Unfortunately, you have a lot of folks who, we'll do a small group, and all they do is present the best of themselves and continue to get affirmation, and they continue to stay addicted to what other people are saying about them.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think, and I feel this tension, and maybe you guys do too. And Mike, as someone who led worship here at Broadmoor for so long, no doubt, and we all have different gifts. Mike, you have an incredible gift that you can sing and play, and your hair looks awesome, like all the things. And no doubt, you live in a front-facing position. I live in a front-facing position that most people who talk, not all, most people only have praise, only have it. What a great sermon! What a great song! That I've never even thought about it like that. And if we are left unchecked, truly, we can begin to think, I am great. But that's why we need people in our lives, like my wife being one of those people. My wife, every Sunday we'll sit down and it's, church will be over. I don't ask her at church. We'll go eat lunch. I don't ask her at lunch. And we'll just be sitting in a chair drinking coffee for Sunday afternoon. Like, babe, what'd you think about church? And it's not a glazing moment. Like, I'm not asking her to, oh, it was so good. You were so great today. Like, if you know our story, we weren't here 6 months and my wife comes forward during the invitation. I'm like, my wife is making a decision, like, for the Lord. Like, how great am I? She said, hey, babe, you might want to tell the church that you misquoted that scripture and I don't want them to think that you're heretical in this. I'm like, oh, dude, you had to do that right now. But that's our relationship. So at the Sunday afternoons are generally, and she's not just like
she's keeping it real,
but she is saying, hey, look, like, did you feel focused because it didn't feel like you were focused in this point? Or, hey, when you said this, would you potentially have said this a different way? And it brings us to a reality. Ooh, I'll give you a for instance. 2 weeks ago, when one of our friends left Broadmoor as she is transitioning from here to Nashville. She was our American Sign Language interpreter, which is, and I'm going to still get it wrong, so Katie, you should be here on this podcast to help me. I am thanking her for, I think I'm doing a great job, thanking her and saying to the church, oh, she does just a great job, kind of presenting for us. And my wife, who is an occupational therapist, works in the disabilities world and says, for people who are disabled or have limited abilities, like potentially what you dismiss them and how you said that. I'm like, we should have this conversation last night, not after, but before that. And so we need people in our lives who will speak truth to us in grace, but also in love. And so, not just our spouses, but to the point, if we are not, and I'm not just saying front-facing people, but we as humans, if we don't have a group of people that we are honest, vulnerable, and accountable to, I think we're missing out on an opportunity for a healthy life, at least emotionally and relationally healthy, not just with people, but also being honest with ourselves. Because if we are given nothing but praise all the time, we're going to begin to believe it. And that's not healthy. And we're going to get there because Solomon is going to speak to that in the chapters to come.
That's good.
Well, thanks, Josh, because now you've given me a reason to be thankful for those critical notes that come in the office.
There you go. Yes. So Paul says,
every
Lord,
time they come through,
thorn.
thank you, Lord.
They're refining.
God says no, because my grace is sufficient. And I laugh because sometimes when people are critical, and I'm like, you're not right. You are not right in your criticism. But I believe God in His grace gives us that to remind us, hey, we're also not right in what we think we're right in.
And sometimes they are right.
Sometimes. Sometimes.
Yeah. So
unfortunately,
I don't want to believe it.
Hey, can we talk about legacy for a moment? Because thank you, Chase.
Chase was like, "Would you ever get to legacy?"
Because one of the things Solomon talks about is, hey, you accumulate all these things, or you work hard to build a legacy, and then one day that gets passed on to someone who likely is just going to squander it. And this was particularly interesting to me because my wife Lori and I we went through a process a few years back where we kind of created our will and kind of did some estate planning. So, if anything ever happened to us, our daughter she's our only child. So, where is all the things, whatever we have at that point, where's it going to go?
You took me out of your will? Unbelievable. Unbelievable. You heard it here, folks. All right, keep going. Sorry.
Well, sorry, Josh.
It's okay. I left all my kids to you. So
Thank you
it's
so
covered.
much. Yeah.
So
well,
but I mean, so one might be tempted to read this chapter and think, well, we shouldn't worry about trying to leave something or build, create a legacy that we pass on. That ambition maybe we shouldn't have. So how do we, is leaving a legacy or the desire to leave a legacy, like, is that inherently smoke, or is there a way to build for the future in a way that isn't vanity?
Yes. Is it smoke? We'll start with one of the questions. Is it smoke? So remember, everything that Solomon is testing is under the sun. Mm-hmm. So the only thing that he is testing is as it pertains to the day you're born and the day you die. Mm. And he would say it is smoke, because ultimately it doesn't matter if you saved up $1 billion. Right. You don't get to take it with you.
Right.
And I think that's ultimately what he is speaking to, because you don't even get to decide who it goes to. Sure, you may give it to your daughter, but what if your daughter's husband begins to spend that money in a way that you wouldn't see fit? Or what if their kids begin to take it and you don't even know their names or their kids' kids, and you don't have no clue who they are, but they're taking now what you worked so hard for, and you have no authority over it. That's essentially what he is saying. So to the question, is it smoke? Under this sun, yes. But if you are kingdom-minded, if we begin to bring New Testament in view and the work of Christ in view, I think that in the smokiness, we begin to live for something more. And now it's not something we are just trying to gain, but it's something we're trying to leverage. Something we are moving the ball down the field for the glory of God and the good of those that are around us. And in that moment, I don't think it's hevel. I don't think it is just smoke. But under the sun, dude, you can make as much money as you want, save as much as you want. You can't take it with you when you go.
No.
Yeah. I had to answer this in my head too, because it was a great question, and of course, I think a lot of us thought about it yesterday. And where I kind of settled it for me is, if my children are watching me build my kingdom for my validation, for my security, my comfort, and then I leave that legacy with them, that's the bigger question. That's the bigger concern, because whatever I leave them, possessions, whatever, house, money, that's secondary to what I leave them with a kingdom perspective. Because if I leave that with them and then they see me leveraging my resources, committing my life not to my kingdom for my glory, but to what I have for his glory, and then they receive that in the next generation, well, then we have something, right? And I won't call names, but we have friends, and y'all are friends with somebody particular who works really hard to say everything I have is for him and his glory. His business is run as a kingdom business, and his children see it. They watch him lead his family with an eye toward the kingdom, and it's cool.
Yeah.
That's a legacy.
Yeah. And again, I think we end up back at the heart, because I think we all would know of people who wanted to leave maybe a financial legacy to their kids that was really more about them, look what I did, or was about, I want my kids to be able to have pleasures in life, to be able to do the big vacations or whatever, versus I'm going to leave it to someone, and so I'm going to leave it to my kids, but I've lived that kind of life that when my kids inherit this, they are going to have a mindset of doing the same.
That's right.
Of being a blessing to others, of being kingdom-minded. And I've seen people that made hard calls at the end of their life because they looked into their kids' lives and did not trust that that money would be used for kingdom purposes. And they said, you know what, kids, we love you, but we're going to give this money to other entities or groups or ministries or whatever, because we trust that they're going to leverage it for kingdom purposes maybe better than you will, which is a really hard thing, right?
That was actually a conversation that the group that we worked with to create our estate planning and all that stuff. One of the questions they asked was, "Hey, is your and our daughter's our only child, so is she a person that you think you would trust to inherit whatever you have and to do with it wisely?" And man, it's like, well, that seems like a tough question. I think so.
But he's asking that for a reason,
yeah.
right? He's seen it happen so many times.
But and I think as we talk about legacy, I mean, there's obviously more than just a financial legacy.
Right.
I'm reminded at certain times as parents, that we try to instill certain values and certain characteristics in our kids, and I love those moments when you see now that we have an adult child who's married and building a family of her own. Every once in a while you get this little glimpse, and this happened just a couple of weeks ago, and I thought, man, I was just so proud.
Yeah.
And it's like to see something that I've always prayed and hoped would be, would become a part of her life, and then to see that on display, it's like, now there's a legacy. I can be,
that is a
happy with.
legacy.
And more than likely that legacy, because we know that our kids probably they catch things more than they're taught things by seeing us and spending time with us. I think one of the tensions that at least this should raise, I know it did for me, is in the planning for a financial legacy or whatever the legacy is down the road, are we giving away some time today that actually builds a legacy with the ones that we hope to build it in,
Right.
And we forfeit the moment now because we are worried about the future. And I think that's the whole of what chapter 2 is all about, because in the end, what he talks about is the gift that is from, and I love the picture, even the words are just potent, that come from Solomon in this text. He goes, it is a gift from the hand of God. And think of the image. God holds all good things, and we know that every good gift comes from him. But he takes it another step further, and he goes, essentially, God reaches down out of heaven, and he opens his hand, and he says, I want you to take this. This is me to you. And the illustration he uses is food and drink.
Yeah.
And he's not saying a specific bread or a specific wine or a specific meat and a specific drink. What he's essentially saying is the most normal, mundane, everyday thing that you do multiple times a day is the greatest gift I can give you. Don't miss that because you're so focused on what happens next. And I think this is so big, particularly for us as families, maybe us in midlife where we see the end. And if we're honest, we probably have less life before us than we have lived life, right? So the runway is getting shorter. So we're trying to make sure that we do the most with our time and be able to pass down the legacy. And what Solomon's wisdom should be teaching us is right now, in this moment, the best thing we can leverage for a legacy to pass down, the best thing we can leverage for kingdom growth right now is eating and drinking. And I would argue eating and drinking with your family, like whatever the normal everyday thing is. Do it with your family in view. Invite them in to see the whole of you, the good and the bad, the successes and the failures.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, they're going to at some point navigate without you. And you're not strong enough to stop it. You're not smart enough to stop it. That's his point about death, right?
Yeah.
So right now is the only thing that you have at your disposal is today. So leverage the normal stuff today with the people you love the most, because that's where the true kingdom growth is going to happen. That's where life is going to receive its purpose, in the eating and the drinking with the people that are around you every day.
That's good. Good picture.
So, yeah, because I heard you yesterday and even now, talking about, being in the moment and not missing, what God has blessed you with right now for, having your sights set on, some future thing that's, so how do we distinguish between, say, a godly contentment, which is what I would call that, and settling for like mediocrity or a lack of vision, right? Because I feel we used the word tension earlier. I feel like that's a tension we've got to hold, right? Is to be present in the moment and to not miss the blessing of what God is doing and blessed us with at this very present time, but yet also, stewarding what He's given us well for the future.
Right.
It's a great question. I think maybe the answer I have, and you guys can certainly disagree with this, I don't think there's going to be a right or wrong to it. I don't think it's as clean as that. I think it is as nuanced as tension. Because tension is you pull this and this one comes this way and then you pull this back and this goes back a little bit this way. So you should feel the appropriate tension. So how do you know I think, and this is kind of how we ended yesterday, but I think it comes down to your practice of gratitude, or your, without getting into more of an Eastern mystic mindset, but this idea of being in the moment and being thankful for what you have, as opposed to, and again, use the illustration of lunch at the Mexican restaurant. Sometimes, and Preston, you said this a while ago, sometimes we'll sit down and eat our meal, but we're just rushing through it because we just got to put something in our body to go on to the next thing. What if we were just so mindful of every bite that we take, or every word that we say, or every breath that we breathe, like in the moment being thankful for it? And I think that is going to become a better proof of us being in a right mind, of being appreciative of what we do. And I'll give you a little bit of example in my life, and I'll without divulging too much that you don't want to know about your pastor, but in anxiety and in depression, if you've never experienced that, you just hear those words and they just kind of flow together. But if you've ever experienced true physical anxiety, it's a gross feeling. Like it is maddening. Your brain is telling you things about reality that aren't. They're not visibly true. Like the room is on fire. That is what my brain is telling me, and I'm looking, and the room is indeed not on fire. And so my body is reacting as if I need to escape this place. Like there's all my spidey senses are going off. And so what I found in the moment, even in the moments that I don't necessarily appreciate, I can be mindful in those moments. And I found myself doing that this week whenever my anxiety ramps up. Hey, God, thank you for letting me feel this anxiety. And that's weird. That is not something I would normally do. And I've told people, man, this chapter has been so formative for me in a healthier view of my walk with God in my brokenness. Because I'm not begging him, God, just please take this away, because if you take it away, then I can serve you. Right. I'm truly understanding a little bit more what Paul says when he says, God, I'm begging you to take that thorn away. And God said, no. I'm going to leave it, and you're going to see that I am more powerful now in you, and I'm going to use you in a way that you had never thought possible with a thorn than without it. And I think this is what we're seeing, that every moment holy, even in the what we would deem unholy moment.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, I do think the ability to live in the not just to live in the here and now and be grateful for what we have, but to be grateful for what we have when things are not going the way that we want. I have tried to make it a practice, and unfortunately we have a lot to practice on, with our, you mentioned your vehicle. So we drive typically older vehicles because we have a small fleet with our crew.
Sure.
And so there's always something that needs to be fixed, always. And I've tried to make it a habit that when something is broken and we need to fix it, to say, thank you, God, that we have a car that can be fixed.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you, God, that we own more than one car so that we can get to two different places at the same time, even if something's wrong with them. And to focus on the blessing of it and not the struggle of it as a way to remind myself and to be more grateful for the here and now. That's not this point out in the future. Because for me, what that point means is if we don't have a bunch of cars that we're trying to take care of, what that means for me is all my kids are gone. They're out of the house and gone. And there's a beauty to that, and that's God's plan and all of that. But there's also that's going to be sad in some ways. But those two things go together. Me this past week, I had a whole list of things. Well, 2 weeks ago, I guess, had a whole list of things I was going to do during the break that did not get done. Had a mother-in-law that went in the hospital. We had a new baby that was born, a new grandbaby that was born. We took in a foster child as part of that. So a lot of my to-do list did not get done. And I had to back up and go, God, help me be grateful that we are able to minister in each of these situations, even if my things don't get done. But that's not, to your point earlier, that doesn't come naturally to me.
No,
I have to dig deep and ask him to do something in me that's not, it's just not there.
Right. And I think that is one of the most beautiful, we talk, Christianese, that is one of the most beautiful quiet times I think you can have. Because I think, and our view of what we perceive quiet time to be, or personal worship time, or time alone with God, is it has to be open the Bible and read this verse and pray this neutral prayer and sing this song. But what if we just sat with him truly as we are?
Yeah.
God, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to make it work. I don't know how it will work. But I'm thankful that I can not know. And I can sit with you in it and trust that he's going to put it together in a way that we may not still like.
Right.
And it truly may not even have the outcome that we desire,
Yeah.
but he's still good, and we can trust him in the process. I think that is a more honest time with God. And if I could give Ecclesiastes another, like, how should you understand this book? It's just honest. There's no Christian pretense to it. There's no religious pretense to it. Life is hard. People are broken. Most people get sick and die. Most miracles don't happen on this side of eternity. But somehow, in some way, God is still good. And the best thing we can do, and this is what he'll say, and I borrowed the line from the end of chapter 12, which is the end of the book, the thing that we should do in view of everything that is hevel on this side of the world is know and love God and appreciate the process along the way. That's what we're called to do.
That's good.
That's good. Well, as we wrap up, I had a holy moment last night with a piece of tiramisu from America.
Yes, you did.
Tell me, was I love it.
That was not smoke.
After that chicken piccata. Anyway, so found myself very grateful to God for that tiramisu. Hey, as we wrap up, just something to keep in front of any of our viewers or listeners. We have a big event coming up here soon. And it's called Together Weekend, and it's a gathering of students, middle school and high school students. I think middle school's included in that, right? Yeah. From I think 5 or 6 different churches around the area.
10.
10 churches this year.
Yeah, we added.
So anyway, as you might imagine, that's a lot of students, and there are a lot of needs involved in that. So if you are listening and you would be willing to serve and to be a part of that in any way, you can go to broadmoor.org/Together Weekend and see some of the opportunities that are available and sign up there. And we would love to have people to help with that. And so there are lots of ways to get involved. So
Awesome.
great conversation.
Good stuff.
Looking forward to next week. And thanks, you guys.
Yeah, love you.
Love you guys.